Hello, and welcome back to the channel, Gilas Nation. If you are tuning in right now, I need you to sit down, take a deep breath, and brace yourselves because the landscape of Philippine basketball has just experienced an absolute seismic shift. Over the past few days, the headlines have been filled with nothing but heartbreak and anxiety for the Philippine men's national basketball team. We were told that our towering prodigy, our 7'3" anchor in the middle, Sotto, was going to be sidelined. We were told that our newly minted local enforcer, the rebounding machine from the University of the Philippines, Quinton Brown or QMB, was unavailable due to overseas commitments and complex club situations. The collective sigh of disappointment from millions of Filipino basketball fans echoed from the streets of Manila all the way to the global diaspora. We were staring down the barrel of the second window of the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers, preparing to face the absolute titans of the Oceania region, the New Zealand All Blacks and the powerhouse Australian Boomers, with a severely depleted frontcourt. We were bracing for the grim reality of asking our 9-time PBA most valuable player, Junmar Fajardo, and our defensive stalwart, AJ Edu, to shoulder an almost impossible burden against some of the biggest, most physical, and most fundamentally sound basketball teams on the planet. But hold everything. Stop the presses. Because the latest developments, the whispers turning into roars within the basketball community, are telling us a completely different story. The breaking news today, the absolute game changer that we are going to dissect in meticulous detail, is that Sotto and Quinton Brown are still incredibly possible to play for Gilas Pilipinas in this crucial second window. Yes, you heard that correctly. The twin towers of our future, the absolute difference makers in our interior defense and rebounding schemes, are not entirely out of the picture. And to add even more fuel to this blazing fire of international basketball drama, the Australian Boomers have just officially released their final 12-man roster for the upcoming clash, and we have the complete breakdown of exactly who is stepping onto the hardwood at the Mall of Asia Arena. This is not just another update. This is a monumental shift in the tactical blueprint of head coach Tim Cone. To truly understand the magnitude of this news, we have to rewind and look at the emotional and strategic roller coaster that Gilas Pilipinas has been riding. When the initial report surfaced that Kai and QMB were out, the panic was completely justified. New Zealand and Australia are not just regular opponents. They represent the highest echelon of international basketball physicality. They bring a brand of basketball that is rugged, relentless, and unforgiving in the paint. The Tall Blacks will punish you on the offensive glass, fighting for every single loose ball with a ferocity that is unmatched. The Australian Boomers, currently ranked 6th in the entire world, execute with a level of precision and size that routinely overwhelms even the best European and American squads. To face them without your primary rim protector in Sotto and without your elite energy big in Quinton Brown felt like going into a heavyweight championship fight with one hand tied behind your back. We were looking at a terrifying scenario where our forwards, guys like Dwight Ramos, Calvin Oftana, and Justin Brownlee, would be forced to play heavy minutes drastically out of position, battling against guys who are naturally bigger, stronger, and accustomed to the brutal physicality of the National Basketball League in Australia. But the basketball gods, it seems, might just be smiling down on the Philippines. The sudden possibility of Sotto lacing up his sneakers changes the entire scouting report for our opponents. When Kai is on the floor, the geometry of the basketball court fundamentally changes for Gilas Pilipinas. At 7 feet and 3 inches tall, with a wingspan that alters shots simply by his mere presence in the shaded lane, Kai is the ultimate equalizer against Oceania size. He is no longer the raw, skinny teenager we saw a few years ago. He has been battle-tested in the Australian NL, he has faced elite, physical competition in the Japanese B-League, and he has shown flashes of absolute dominance on the global FIBA stage. His ability to catch the ball at the high post, make brilliant reads in Tim Cone's sophisticated triangle offense, execute seamless dribble handoffs with our dynamic guards like Chris Newsom and CJ Perez, and finish with a remarkably soft touch around the rim makes him an indispensable asset. Furthermore, his synergy with Justin Brownlee is a thing of absolute beauty. The pick-and-roll game between Brownlee and Sotto puts opposing defenses in an impossible, mind-bending bind. Do you step up to contest Brownlee's deadly mid-range pull-up, or do you stay attached to the terrifying lob threat of a towering Kai Sotto rolling hard to the basket? If Sotto is officially cleared to play, if that final green light is given by the medical staff and his mother club, the collective confidence of the entire Gilas roster instantly skyrockets. And then we have the complex situation surrounding Quinton Millar-Brown. The QMB saga has been a whirlwind of administrative battles, FIBA eligibility appeals, and sheer, stubborn determination. Let us not forget the massive, historic victory the Samahang basketball in Pilipinas secured when they successfully appealed FIBA's initial ruling that classified QMB as a naturalized player. Getting him legally reclassified as a local was an administrative masterstroke, instantly bolstering the long-term future of our national team. When QMB finally made his highly anticipated debut against Guam in the previous window, he immediately showed everyone exactly why Tim Cone called him, quote, just what the doctor ordered, unquote. He is not a flashy, highlight reel player. He is not going to demand the ball in the post and try to hit you with a barrage of dream shakes and fadeaways. What Quinton Millar-Brown brings is the absolute grit, the relentless blue-collar work ethic, and the high basketball IQ that championship-caliber teams absolutely desperately need. He sets bone-crushing screens to free up our perimeter shooters. He boxes out with pristine, textbook fundamentals, taking away the offensive rebounding angles of much bigger opponents. He communicates vocally on defense, calling out complex switches and anchoring the backline when Fajardo or Edu are resting on the bench. In his own words, after his initial stint, he admitted to still figuring out the nuances of the system. But recently, he has expressed a supreme, unshakable confidence, stating that he feels much more comfortable with how he fits in and exactly how he needs to play. He specifically highlighted that against towering teams like Australia and New Zealand, you simply cannot teach or train size. You either have it or you do not. And at 6'10" with a sturdy, immovable frame, QMB has the physical size to absorb the punishing blows in the paint, to lean heavily on the opposing bigs, and to wear them down over the course of a grueling 40-minute contest. The fact that these two behemoths are still genuinely in the mix is a massive testament to the relentless, unseen work behind the scenes. It speaks volumes to the commitment of the players themselves, who clearly understand the massive gravity of these home games. Playing at the Mall of Asia Arena, in front of thousands of screaming, passionate Filipino fans, is an experience unlike absolutely any other in world basketball. It is a terrifying cauldron of noise and emotion that has been known to severely rattle even the most seasoned international veterans. But you cannot win international basketball games on emotion alone. You desperately need the right personnel to execute the tactical game plan. And the potential inclusion of Sotto and QMB provides Coach Tim Cone with the ultimate tactical flexibility he thrives on. Imagine a frontline rotation where you can seamlessly transition from the sheer, immovable physical force of June Mar Fajardo to the agile, skyscraping rim protection of Kai Sotto, to the switchable, lockdown perimeter defense of AJ Edu, and finally to the relentless motor and elite rebounding of Quinton Millar-Brown. That is a frontcourt rotation that can look the tall blacks and the mighty boomers squarely in the eye and not blink for a single second. Now, let us firmly pivot and shine a massive, glaring spotlight on the opposition, specifically the Australian Boomers, who have officially drawn their swords and revealed their final 12-man roster for this critical window. When you look at an Australian national team roster, regardless of whether it features their top-tier NBA superstars or their elite domestic NL talent, you're looking at an absolute masterclass in systematic basketball development. The Australian basketball pipeline is arguably one of the most efficient, ruthlessly productive systems in the entire world. They breed players who are fundamentally flawless, who instinctively understand the value of rapid ball movement, who actively embrace physical contact, and who shoot the three ball with lethal, back-breaking accuracy. The roster they are bringing to Manila might be devoid of the Patty Mills and Josh Giddeys of the world, but make absolutely no mistake, this is a terrifyingly efficient, highly dangerous basketball team. This squad is comprised of hardened, battle-tested veterans and hungry, athletic rising stars from the National Basketball League, a league that is universally considered the second or third best domestic basketball competition on the planet. When we break down this Australian Final 12, the very first thing that violently jumps off the scouting report is their absolute positional size. They simply do not have small guards. Their primary playmakers are tall, their wings are massive and athletic, and their bigs are incredibly mobile. This creates an absolute nightmare scenario for switching defenses. If Gilas Pilipinas lazily attempts to switch on high pick and rolls, the Boomers will immediately, ruthlessly identify the mismatch, isolate the smaller Filipino defender in the low post, and surgically exploit it until we are forced to adjust. This is exactly why the potential presence of Sotto and Quinton Millar-Brown is the biggest, most critical storyline of the entire week. If we are forced to play a small ball lineup against this Australian team out of sheer necessity, they will systematically dismantle us on the interior. They will mercilessly pound the offensive glass, generate demoralizing second-chance points, and aggressively collapse our defense into the paint to open up their deadly perimeter shooters. The Boomers play a highly intelligent brand of basketball that is heavily reliant on continuous, exhausting motion. They run complex flex cuts, staggered off-ball screens, and rapid dribble handoffs that require supreme, unbroken defensive discipline to navigate. If you fall asleep on defense for a split second, if you miss a single rotation, they will make you pay dearly with a devastating backdoor layup or a wide-open corner three. Facing Australia requires a level of mental fortitude that goes far beyond just physical preparation. You have to be completely willing to take a hard hit, get right back up, and execute the very next play with zero hesitation. You have to be willing to physically fight through borderline illegal screens that the international referees might swallow their whistles on. You have to secure the defensive rebound as if your very life depends on it, because giving this Boomers team multiple bites at the apple is a guaranteed, foolproof recipe for a blowout loss. Tim Cohn is acutely, painfully aware of this reality. His core defensive philosophies are entirely built on limiting passing lanes, forcing highly contested mid-range jumpers, and ending the defensive possession with a completely secure rebound. But brilliant strategies drawn on a whiteboard are entirely useless if you do not have the physical personnel to execute them on the floor. Junmar Fajardo, for all his undeniable greatness, for all his historic PBA accolades, simply cannot play 40 minutes of high-intensity international basketball against a rotating cast of giant, athletic Australian 7-footers. He absolutely needs help. He needs breathers. He desperately needs the cavalry to arrive. And that cavalry comes directly in the form of Sotto and QMB. Let us dig even deeper into the highly specific tactical matchups if our twin towers are indeed officially cleared to play. Offensively, the Australian defense is meticulously designed to heavily pressure the primary ball handler and violently deny the strong side passes. They want to forcefully push you completely out of your comfort zone and force you into desperate, late shot clock isolation plays. To effectively counter this intense pressure, Gilas Pilipinas critically needs the reliable post-up presence of Fajardo and the elite high-post playmaking of Sotto. Kai's unique ability to see entirely over the top of the defense is a massive, game-changing critical advantage. When he securely catches the ball at the free throw line, he acts as an essential pressure release valve for our beleaguered guards. He can spot the hard-cutting Dwight Ramos, he can easily find Justin Brownlee flashing to the wing, or he can simply take a slower man off the dribble if the driving lane suddenly opens up. QMB, on the other hand, will be heavily, continuously utilized in the high pick and roll and as a relentless rim runner in transition. Australia transitions from offense to defense incredibly fast, but if QMB can consistently beat his man down the floor with sheer hustle, it creates early, easy post-up opportunities or deep paint touches long before the formidable Australian half-court defense is properly set. Furthermore, we must talk extensively about the New Zealand Tall Blacks, our immediate, pressing hurdle before the colossal Australian mountain. New Zealand basketball is heavily characterized by a fierce, undeniable warrior spirit. When they perform the traditional haka before tip-off, it is not just a cultural ceremonial dance, it is a serious declaration of intent. It is a solemn promise of physical combat on the hardwood. The Tall Blacks are notoriously known globally as some of the absolute best offensive rebounders in all FIBA competitions. They crash the offensive glass with reckless, terrifying abandon. Quentin Millora-Brown specifically astutely noted this exact threat in his recent interviews. He stated clearly and unequivocally that team rebounding and protecting the basketball from live ball turnovers are the two absolute non-negotiables if Gilas legitimately wants to secure a victory. New Zealand will fiercely press, they will aggressively trap, they will desperately try to speed up the tempo and force our guards into rushed, panicked decisions. If Chris Newsom, Scotty Thompson, and CJ Perez can somehow maintain their icy composure, break the relentless pressure, and deliver the basketball safely to our bigs, we have a very distinct, clear advantage. But again, that crucial advantage relies entirely on having actual bigs to deliver the ball to. Without Sotto and QMB, that massive advantage instantly evaporates, and we are violently forced into a perimeter-oriented, high-variance shootout against teams that are inherently, structurally better suited for that exact style of play in the highly physical international arena. The overarching gravity of this second window absolutely cannot be overstated. We are systematically building towards the 2027 FIBA World Cup, and every single grueling game, every single hard-fought possession, is a foundational building block for that ultimate, grand goal. The Samahang basketball in Pilipinas has invested heavily and wisely in creating a continuous, highly cohesive program under the masterful guidance of Tim Cohn. Gone are the chaotic days of hastily assembling a makeshift team a mere 2 weeks before a major tournament. This specific iteration of Gilas Pilipinas is solidly built on a bedrock foundation of long-term strategic planning, deep system familiarity, and building an unbreakable culture of strict accountability. The seamless integration of AJ Edu, the smooth naturalization process of Justin Brownlee, the tireless, successful legal efforts to clear Quentin Millora-Brown as a local, and the continued, careful development of Kai Sotto are all massive, vital pieces of this highly complex puzzle. When you look closely at the sheer potential of a fully healthy, fully committed Gilas roster, the ceiling is truly astronomical. We are no longer just looking to merely compete and politely keep the score respectable. We're looking to definitively win. We are looking to firmly establish ourselves as the undisputed, tyrannical kings of Asian basketball and a legitimate, feared threat on the global stage. But potential is just a fancy, hollow word for things you have not actually done yet. The cold, hard reality is that this team has to step onto the floor and definitively prove it. And the swirling, dramatic uncertainty surrounding the availability of our key players adds an incredible, suffocating layer of tension to an already massive, high-stakes situation. Just imagine the deafening roar of the Mall of Asia arena crowd if, during the final pregame warm-ups, the massive, unmistakable frame of Kai Sotto jogs out of the tunnel. Imagine the sheer, electrifying energy that will violently course through the building if Quentin Millora-Brown confidently checks into the game and immediately grabs a heavily contested offensive rebound and powers it back up for a vicious N1. These are the exact defining moments that elevate national team basketball above all else. It is entirely about overcoming staggering adversity, fiercely defying the odds, and putting the massive pride of 110 million deeply passionate Filipinos squarely on your broad shoulders. Let's break down the massive ripple effect and the profound implications for the rest of the roster if Sotto and QMB are officially cleared to play. Suddenly, instantaneously, Dwight Ramos doesn't have to physically exhaust himself battling massive power forwards in the brutal paint. He can seamlessly slide back to his natural, highly effective position on the wing, where his impressive size, his smooth shooting, and his elite perimeter defense truly shine. Carl Tamayo and Kevin Kiambao are absolutely brilliant, highly versatile young forwards, can comfortably operate in their ideal, natural roles as modern stretch fours, exploiting mismatches and spacing the floor perfectly without the crushing, exhausting burden of being the primary, undersized post defenders against massive Australian centers. Justin Brownlee, the absolute legend who has delivered countless, impossible miracles for the Philippines, can fully focus on what he does better than anyone else: lethally scoring the basketball in clutch, high-pressure situations and orchestrating the half-court offense, rather than having to play drastically out of position to desperately compensate for a glaring lack of interior size. The tactical domino effect of having true, legitimate centers available is massive and game-changing. It beautifully allows every single player on the roster to seamlessly slide into their most highly effective, most incredibly comfortable role within Tim Cohn's meticulously crafted, highly demanding system. We also have to deeply acknowledge and respect the vital veteran leadership of Junmar Fajardo in this highly specific, incredibly important scenario. Fajardo has been the absolute unshakable rock of the national team for well over a decade. He has seen it all, he has done it all. He has fiercely battled the absolute best, most physically intimidating centers the world has to offer, often single-handedly, stoically carrying the massive physical toll of those brutal matchups. If he finally has Kai and QMB solidly backing him up, it miraculously extends his legendary career. It completely maximizes his sheer efficiency in shorter, much more physically impactful bursts, and it perfectly allows him to be the wise, guiding mentor that these highly promising young bigs desperately, fundamentally need. Fajardo's immaculate footwork, his infinite patience in the low post, and his incredibly soft touch around the basket are absolute, daily masterclasses that Sotto and Milora Brown can closely observe and learn from every single day in practice. This beautiful passing of the torch, this seamless blending of the legendary, battle-scarred veteran with the highly promising, incredibly athletic future stars, is precisely what a healthy, thriving, world-class national team program looks like. So, as we intensely analyze this incredible breaking news, we have to look at it closely from every single possible angle. If they both play, the Philippines immediately, undeniably becomes a highly dangerous, incredibly tough out for both the New Zealand Tall Blacks and the Australian Boomers. We instantly gain elite rim protection, we gain crucial rebounding dominance, and most importantly, we gain the required structural integrity needed to successfully run our complex offensive and defensive systems at their absolute highest, most lethal capacity. If, however, the medical clearances tragically fall through at the very last minute, if the complex logistics simply cannot be sorted out in time, then Coach Tim Cohn will have to miraculously pull off an absolute coaching masterclass of the highest order. He will have to heavily rely on frantic, small ball lineups, highly aggressive, exhausting trapping defense, and an absolutely otherworldly, historic shooting performance from our perimeter players just to stay within striking distance. It will fiercely require a level of sheer willpower and quote-pusso-unquote that we have indeed seen before, but that is incredibly, monumentally difficult to sustain over two completely grueling, highly physical games against top-tier, world-class opposition. The international spotlight is now blindingly bright on the SBP, the dedicated medical staff, and the highly anxious camps of the players themselves. The clock is rapidly, unforgivingly ticking down to tip off. The final, secretive practices at the Inspire Sports Academy are going to be closed-door, highly intense, and absolutely, undeniably critical. Every single pick-and-roll defensive coverage, every single complex baseline out-of-bounds play, every single rapid defensive rotation must be relentlessly perfected. Because when the stadium lights go down at the MOA Arena, when the Philippine national anthem plays and the passionate crowd falls into a deeply reverent silence before violently erupting into a truly deafening roar, there are absolutely no more excuses left. There are no more what-ifs to hide behind. It is just 5 fiercely determined guys in blue and white against 5 highly skilled guys from the other side of the ocean, battling fiercely for national pride, for critical world ranking points, and for the sheer, unadulterated love of the game. The Australian Boomers are absolutely not coming here for a relaxing vacation. They are coming here to firmly assert their dominance. They are coming here to ruthlessly prove that their domestic basketball talent is vastly superior to ours. The New Zealand Tall Blacks are coming here to physically, violently impose their unyielding will and aggressively walk away with a highly crucial road victory. Gilas Pilipinas is proudly standing at the gates, fiercely defending our sacred home floor. The incredible news that Sotto and Quinton Milor-Brown are still mathematically, physically, and logistically entirely possible to suit up is the massive beacon of hope that Gilas Nation desperately, urgently needed right now. It completely shifts the entire narrative from desperate damage control to highly cautious, deeply exciting optimism. It brutally forces the opposing scouting departments to completely tear up their carefully laid game plans and frantically prepare for a much bigger, vastly more formidable Philippine squad. As we finally reach the conclusion of this incredibly extensive, highly detailed deep dive, I truly want to take a serious moment to reflect on what this entire, exhausting saga genuinely represents for Philippine basketball. This is truly not just about a single, isolated FIBA window. This is not strictly just about beating Australia or New Zealand, as undeniably monumental and historic as those specific achievements would naturally be. This is fundamentally about the ongoing, massive evolution of our entire national basketball identity. For several long decades, the highly romanticized Filipino basketball story was almost exclusively one of the scrappy underdog. We were heavily stereotyped as the small, incredibly quick, highly erratic sharpshooting team that exclusively relied on massive heart and chaotic hustle to somehow overcome massive, glaring deficits in sheer physical size and elite athleticism. We were proudly the unpredictable giant slayers who occasionally, miraculously caught lightning in a bottle. But that outdated narrative is rapidly, fundamentally changing before our very eyes. With the undeniable emergence of highly skilled, massive players like Sotto, standing at a legitimate 7'3", and Quinton Milor-Brown, a highly physical, legitimate 6'10" bruiser, alongside elite defensive savants like AJ Edu, we are no longer just the plucky, feel-good underdogs. We are systematically building a highly imposing team that can legitimately, physically match up with the absolute best the rest of the world has to offer directly on paper. The complex, often painful transition from a team that relies almost entirely on unpredictable isolation scoring and streaky perimeter shooting to a highly balanced team that can ruthlessly pound the ball inside, violently protect the rim, and utterly dominate the crucial rebounding battle is a difficult but completely necessary evolution. It deeply requires incredible patience from the highly passionate fans. It requires a steadfast, unyielding commitment to the long-term program from all the key stakeholders. And most importantly, it requires the absolute, selfless dedication of the players to immediately answer the call when the national team desperately needs them. The incredible fact that Quinton Milor-Brown fought so fiercely through dense administrative red tape and complex legal appeals just to proudly wear the Pilipinas jersey speaks absolute volumes about his outstanding character. The inspiring fact that Sotto is currently doing absolutely everything in his considerable power to aggressively rehab, clear strict medical protocols, and immediately fly back to Manila despite an incredibly grueling international club schedule clearly shows his undeniable, deep-rooted love for the country. These highly committed players fundamentally understand the massive weight of the jersey. They deeply understand that when they confidently step onto the floor, they are absolutely not just representing themselves or their wealthy professional clubs. They are proudly carrying the heavy hopes and massive dreams of a nation where basketball is treated with the reverence of a religion. The upcoming, highly anticipated games against New Zealand and Australia are massive, highly revealing litmus tests for this entire program. Even if Sotto and QMB ultimately play, securing a victory is still incredibly far from guaranteed. The Boomers and the Tall Blacks are highly elite, deeply disciplined, and ruthlessly efficient basketball machines that will strictly punish any mistake. But what we desperately want to see as devoted fans, what we absolutely demand from our beloved national team, is a fierce, competitive fire that simply refuses to be extinguished under any circumstances. We want to clearly see players violently diving for loose balls. We want to see highly aggressive, hard, strictly legal fouls to fiercely protect the paint. We want to see our dynamic guards ruthlessly breaking ankles and instantly finding the wide-open man. We want to clearly see the flawless execution of Tim Cohn's complex system to absolute perfection. Win or tragically lose, if Gilas Pilipinas visibly leaves every single ounce of their physical energy on that hardwood, the fans will fiercely, lovingly embrace them. But let us be completely, brutally honest with ourselves. We deeply want the wins. We absolutely crave the massive statement victories that instantly send highly disruptive shockwaves through the entire FIBA global rankings. We want to definitively secure our rightful spot in the 2027 FIBA World Cup with absolute, unquestionable authority, not by nervously scraping through the back door on a technicality. Having our towering twin bigs available gives us an incredible, legitimate fighting chance to do precisely that. It instantly transforms our entire defense from a highly porous perimeter shell into a deeply fortified, impenetrable interior fortress. It fundamentally transforms our entire offense from being heavily, dangerously reliant on highly contested jump shots to a highly balanced, lethal attack that can ruthlessly punish you inside and out. It perfectly allows Justin Brownlee to be the ultimate closer, rather than being forced to be the entire offense. It beautifully allows Junmar Fajardo to be the wise, impactful veteran, rather than being the solitary, exhausted Atlas endlessly carrying the sky. As the final, agonizing hours rapidly tick down before the opening tip-off, the nervous anticipation is entirely palpable. The busy streets around the massive Mall of Asia Arena will inevitably be a vast, swirling sea of proud blue and white. The various social media feeds will be completely flooded with incredible highlights, wild predictions, and highly passionate, fiery debates. This is exactly what it is all about. This is the absolute peak, the ultimate pinnacle of international sporting drama. We will be watching the final, official roster announcements like absolute hawks. We will be critically analyzing every single pregame warm-up drill, desperately looking for any tiny sign of a slight limp, any small indication of exactly who is in the highly coveted starting five. I want to hear directly from you, the incredibly passionate fans. Get down in the comment section right now and let your voices be heard. How do you personally feel about this massive, highly unexpected breaking news? If Kai Sotto and Quentin Miller-Brown officially, definitively suit up, what are your exact, bold predictions for the highly physical game against the New Zealand Tall Blacks? Do we genuinely have the required offensive firepower and the sheer interior size to successfully pull off a massive upset against the highly mighty Australian Boomers? How incredibly crucial is the specific role of Justin Brownlee in successfully orchestrating a smooth offense with these massive, highly demanding big men now in the fold? Let us get a massive, highly detailed discussion going because this specific community is the absolute, undeniable heartbeat of Philippine basketball. Your deep passion, your brilliant insights, and your unwavering, fierce support are exactly what make covering this incredible team so incredibly, deeply special. If you found this highly extensive deep dive informative, if you genuinely appreciate the extremely detailed, absolute no-nonsense breakdown of the complex tactics, the deep rosters, and the incredibly high-stakes drama surrounding Gilas Pilipinas, please do me a massive, incredible favor. Hit that like button right now, smash it. It helps the channel immensely and aggressively pushes this highly detailed content out to more passionate, die-hard basketball fans across the entire globe. Make absolutely sure you are fully subscribed to the channel with the notification bell permanently turned on, so you absolutely do not miss a single, crucial second of our highly detailed post-game analysis, our strict player grades, and our exclusive, breaking updates as we carefully navigate this incredibly thrilling FIBA window. We will be right here immediately after the final buzzer officially sounds to meticulously break down every single crucial possession, every single controversial coaching decision, and every single history-defining moment. Until then, keep your fingers tightly crossed, keep the absolute faith alive, and let us all firmly unite behind our beloved national squad. Laban Pilipinas.
Puso.
Thank you so incredibly much for tuning in to this highly extensive broadcast, and I will absolutely see you all in the very next video.